At the time of this recording, I'm 40 years old and have had my production company running for over 5 years and have been taking on photo and video gigs for over 10 years.
10 years!
But if I could go back and give some advice to my 29-year-old self on how to start up and make it with my own production company, here's what I'd say. My first tip is don't buy courses. I've talked about this in another video. The problem, courses cost money, and course creators, yes, even really talented photographers, videographers, filmmakers that are currently selling courses are in the business of selling courses. The turning point was realizing that feeling like you can't close that gap without studying, learning, and especially practicing on your own was silly. I'm not saying courses have no value and they're all a scam. I'm not saying that at all. But this whole idea of courses like earn 6 figures in a year and cinematic video masterclass and all that stuff just needs to go away.
I don't get along with people.
While we're at it, you know what else needs to go away? Terms like game changer, the actual word cinematic, content creator, AI, influencer, and to a certain extent, filmmaker. You know what's cinematic? Roger Deakins, his cinematography. Very little, if anything today, is a game changer. You know what's a game changer? Upgrading from a cheap plastic stand to a heavy-duty C-stand. That's a game changer. But I firmly believe the solution is to watch really good movies, observe high-budget commercials, study composition and lighting, watch tutorials and breakdowns from authentic and accomplished cinematographers, if that's the field you're looking to go into. But do these things, then set up your lights and practice at home. Go out to a nature preserve on a foggy morning before sunrise with one lens and practice cinematography. Get in touch with people in positions you want to be in, better photographers, cinematographers, directors, whatever, and offer to PA for free. Watch them on set, film BTS if they let you, study what they do, take it all in, and just apply one of those tips, one technique you observed, to your next shoot. That's how you close the gap, evolve, improve your technique. I guess what baffles me is that a lot of course creators make you think you can only close that gap by buying their courses, and that's complete bullshit.
I'm really sorry.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
It's a great sales tactic, but complete bullshit. Again, some courses have value, I'm not saying they don't, but it has gotten out of hand. And when you're just starting up to sink 300, 400, 500, even more into a course because every testimonial is stroking the ego of a course creator is a legitimate waste of money. For every testimonial claiming the course changed someone's life, there are 100 more people that already knew the information, it had no profound effect on their creative trajectory, and it wasted their money. Maybe a lot of those people didn't apply the lessons because, to be fair, courses are like any other program. It works if you work it. But the truth is that most of what you get in courses can be found on YouTube. That's the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
There is nothing proprietary about any of these courses that you can't learn on your own, from others, from YouTube, or while on set with some good old-fashioned legwork. My next tip is to stay organized, specifically with billing, and don't purchase billing software like QuickBooks or whatever. The problem is subscriptions, software, storage all cost a ton of money, especially when you're starting out, and you might not have that money. The solution is just to stay organized. For example, for billing, start an Excel spreadsheet. Keep columns with date, client, project, invoice, income receipt. For expenses, same thing. And I learned this in my old sales job. Expenses have categories. Is it equipment, a marketing expense, billing or banking fees, meals and entertainment, etc. and so on. Take an iPhone photo of your receipts, link them to your spreadsheet. Mark what account it goes into, if there's any Venmo fees, so on and so forth. Same thing with paying yourself. All of this can be easily parsed out by an accountant, or is super easy to do it on your own through TurboTax. Just stay organized. And as a bonus tip, let's talk about LegalZoom. Yeah, it's easy to use to start an LLC, and that's what I used, but they, like other big companies, resort to obfuscation when it comes to maintaining compliance for a small business. I'll give you an example. Recently, there were 2 compliance filings for my business that I needed to make. One was an annual report for small businesses in the state of Pennsylvania, and the other was that FinCEN BOIR filing that you may have heard of. They scared a lot of small businesses with threats of daily fines for hundreds of dollars a day if you didn't file. So LegalZoom sends me an email about both, which is great. How else would I have known these filings were needed or due to remain compliant for my business? The catch is that in these emails, they also had that generic text, for $150, we can file it for you, or whatever the number was. And for like near double that, we can file it every year with no action needed from you. And right as I was about to click file my report and charge my credit card, I did a little bit of research on Reddit, found both filings on the Pennsylvania, government website, and in literally under 10 minutes filed both of these for less than $25 total. So again, stay organized, do your homework, keep your financials and taxes up to date, and it goes a long way, not only in saving you money, but saving you severe headaches. My next tip, and this one is near to my heart, buy refurbished gear. Gear costs money, a lot of money, especially the latest and greatest. So the turning point for me was realizing that a refurbished, like new, or in great or excellent condition lens would be indiscernible from a brand new lens. There's even a ton of gear that is open box or demo discounted. If the store takes it out of the box, puts it on a shelf, and swaps it out down the line, boom, you can buy that piece of gear for several $100s cheaper. Save $300 on a new lens that costs over $3,000. Save $150 here, $75 there, $200 there. And over the years, speaking from experience, I am absolutely confident I have saved
$1 million.
probably close to $10,000 with zero impact on image quality. My tip here would be also to buy from reputable sources like B&H, Adorama, Gear Focus, and more. My next tip is to diversify creatively. Don't do niche in the beginning. This one, again, is personal to me, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've spoken about niche before. Niche. I'm gonna keep saying niche.
Mr. Griffin, I'm not quite sure how to say this. Kim Basinger? Basinger?
But competing with the best in any niche can seem like too tall a mountain to climb as a beginner, whether it's as a commercial DP, sports photographer, doesn't matter. The caveat here is if you know exactly what it is you want to do, go for that and only that. Get a mentor, study, practice, offer to PA, whatever it is you have to do to close that gap. For example, if you just want to photograph football for the NFL, go to high school games to learn. So this is where I actually do agree with niche, and I'm contradicting my point.
I wouldn't want somebody tracing my steps, pointing out all the mistakes I was making.
But if you have a singular focus, a crystallized goal, and a creative vision, and a passion for the exact thing that it is you want to do that. But the turning point for me was realizing I was, and still am, making money shooting for restaurants, corporate videos, small businesses, even photo and video gear and equipment companies, and I'm doing pretty good in the high school sports world. It's incredible how much money there is to be made there. So as a one-man, run-and-gun, solo production company, diversification has been my financial lifeline. Plus, I think it's creatively advantageous to learn different styles of photography and videography. And more importantly, certain niches carry over to other niches, like product photography and food photography. There's an overlap. I think landscape photography even carries over to my cinematography, or lack thereof. The list goes on. As an example of how creative diversification benefited me when I was just starting out to where I am now, my current workload of the projects I've been paid to film and photograph over the last month have been 4 media days, product photography and videography for a machine shop, a world-renowned and award-winning chef's 6th cookbook, where I've filmed and edited over 40 recipe videos that will be QR code linked to his cookbook, sports action photos and videos, and I'm even being sent equipment prototypes and free gear and being paid to travel and test the gear out, in addition to getting a bunch of really nice stuff for free, which is always cool. And as an aside, I just had one of my travel photos accepted into a big regional art exhibition. There was like over 1,000 entries, and it was a mixed media show where you have ceramics, 3D prints, oil paintings, photography. But I was definitely proud of the fact that only 12 photos were accepted into this exhibition from over 1,000 pieces of art submitted.
That dude's work sucks.
That's not a brag, it's diversification. I've had jujitsu and food photos published in huge magazines, one of them being the most popular wine magazine in the world, and media outlets like the Philly Inquirer and Philly Voice. The list goes on. So I do believe in niche, and I think I have an idea of what it is I want to do specifically in terms of my own creative path. But man, when you're just starting out, I firmly believe in diversification in your photography, videography, and filmmaking. It can go a long way to keeping some really awesome doors open and building relationships in different worlds. I'm interested in a lot of things, so it only makes sense that I want to film and photograph a lot of things that I find interesting. The last 5 months have been my busiest ever, and the next 5 are pretty much booked out. And I really do attribute a lot of this to having a creatively diversified approach. Bonus tip with your work, diversified or not. But I just realized that 99% of the photos that I post to social media, Instagram specifically, would not even make my photography portfolio of my website. And 99% of those photos on my website, I would never even consider printing as art. Not that printing photos is every photographer's goal, quite the opposite for a lot of people, but this is more of a commentary on how social media in and of itself is really just a fickle thing. It took me a long time to learn that my Instagram doesn't need to be this perfectly curated thing. No one is going to my bio and searching around, digging through old posts and analyzing the 12th photo in a post of a high school lacrosse game or a trip to Montana I took. Social media is a tool to connect. Use it as such, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. My next tip is don't wait for work when you're not busy. It sounds obvious, but in the beginning this is important. The problem here is self-explanatory. So the turning point for me in the beginning was realizing that no one cared that I started a production company. I mean, yeah, friends and family are proud, but no one owes you anything or needs to hire you, even if your work is good.
Christy.
And when your work is good, even great, waiting for people to hire you is a creative and professional time bomb. Shout out to my guy Vinny, who said he heard it somewhere that what you do when you're not busy is more important than what you do when you are busy. I think that's some good wisdom there. Or something to that effect. And I've talked about this before, but the passion work, spec work, and free work that I have done is not only what populates over 95% of my portfolio, but that is what I send potential clients. That's what I show to people. That's what stands out, I hope, and helps me get a foot in the door of new clients. It's overstating the obvious, but being productive and disciplined in your downtime is what will help you grow, especially in the beginning. I mean, I can only speak from my experience, but it has helped me grow. My work improves drastically when I'm working on my own dime, on my own time, shooting things that I'm sincerely interested in and passionate about. My next tip is to say no to more people. The problem is that in the beginning, and even sometimes more recently, I would rather make $200 than $0. So even though a photo project, to just use a random example, I think I should charge $400 for, they might say they can only pay $200. Better than nothing, right? Well, yes and no.
I simply ask for what is mine.
When you're just starting out, you can take work for cheaper and be transparent. I'm just starting out, and as I'm looking to build a portfolio, I'd be willing to take this project on at a discounted rate, or something to that effect. Now, if you have no jobs currently, and nothing coming up, for sure, take the $200 or whatever it is. Then down the line, if you get busy, just be transparent again and communicate. As I've improved my skills and taken on a heavier client workload, my project rates have gone up at the start of 2025 to a minimum of the $400 you thought you should be making, or whatever it is. Again, arbitrary examples.
But I ask you, what is a contract?
You might charge way less, you might charge way more. But the turning point happened to me a couple years into taking on client work, and that was realizing that people that want deals aren't going to be long-term, recurring retainer clients. In fact, they're gonna be the most high maintenance and impossible people to deal with for majority of the time.
Rich bastards. I used to hate them. Now it's...
They're looking for that one-time deal and then they'll bounce. Or they'll nickel and dime you and just cause you headaches with revisions, challenging your deliverables, which is honestly way worse. So the lesson here, or the solution, and I will 100% admit it only presents itself when you have a full workload and the freedom to pick and choose who you will work with and if it interests you and if they don't balk at your prices. But the lesson is to be attentive and look for red flags with people and clients that always want deals. A full workload of Mickey Mouse shit jobs with headache clients isn't a full workload. It's a recipe for burnout. Side note is, the thing I'm probably best at in life is sniffing out bullshit hucksters and asshat chiselers. So it's actually become quite easy to red flag these people after usually 1 or 2 email exchanges and just say no. My next tip is to be incredibly realistic, ruthless, and harsh with your own work. In the beginning, and always. The problem here is you're just starting out with your production company or career in photography or whatever it is, so you make a couple big purchases. For me, when I launched my company, it was my first 4K camera, the Sony a7 III and a Tamron 24-70 or 28-70 and a DJI Mavic 2. So I thought, okay, I'm shooting in 4K, I've earned higher budgets, bigger client work, my photos with this new camera amazing. Just seeing my first 4K video images and high megapixel photos made me think they were by default great. Spoiler, they were not. So the turning point for me was going back to my work over the years. I would go back to it every few months, or sometimes even like a year or 2 later, and realizing it just wasn't that good. Composition, lighting, even storytelling, 4K and high megapixels does not automatically equal compelling images and great stories. The lesson I learned was just to ask myself, what makes this stand out? Whether it's client work, or passion work, or spec work, whatever. When you're doing photography and videography for clients, you're in the business of being a marketing professional by default. But we're also consumers. How many ads really stand out to you and why?
Well, I have been thinking quite a bit about this.
Would you buy that product or that service, whether it's a smoothie or a new camera bag or a t-shirt or a dirt bike? It doesn't matter. So I started doing the same with my client work and realized I had a long way to go, and quite frankly still do, and in all honesty will never arrive and think my work is sensational or complete.
I'm your white knight.
Every few months, I go into my photography section of my website and delete several photos, usually saying to myself,
What are you, fucking nuts?
what was I thinking here? And I do it with videos too. But one other tip is to look at other people's work, but balance that with your blinders. So if you're too invested in looking at the pros of the pros' work, the tip of the spear, you start to get imposter syndrome and it can feel like drinking from the fire hose. You start to think like, what's the point? My work will never be as good as theirs. Over time, I learned it doesn't have to be as good as theirs, it just has to be uniquely mine. My last tip is to be a pleasure to work with. So the problem here is that a lot of people do good work, even great work. There's a lot of good competition out there. So you've started your photography and or video production company. So now you have to continually build a portfolio of good work, network and build relationships, market yourself, sell your services via email and phone calls and Zooms to potential clients, craft a vision for them and prep on your end to execute, shoot, edit, deliver. The list goes on. You have to wear all these hats. It can be exhausting, especially in the beginning if you're not ready to scale, hire out your weaknesses, etc. and so on, which I'm still not. But there is competition in the industry, and just keeping a small company afloat is a ton of work. The turning point for me was actually finding out that I had people hire me instead of someone else we had both worked with who was objectively better than me because, and I quote, they were kind of a dick.
You dick!
You give yourself a better chance at success at overcoming the competition outside of collaboration, if you're a pleasure to work with. I realize that not everyone is going to be an outgoing, extroverted ray of sunshine, but I've seen people who do really incredible work think they're fucking Quentin Tarantino on set. Like, okay, man, relax. We're filming a short doc for a nonprofit. Just relax. So the lesson here is tied to my own freedom, thankfully, because I'm busy lately, to pick and choose some clients, tell people no, etc. and so on. At my old sales job, my boss did give me some wisdom once and said, we can choose not to work with assholes, and people can choose not to work with you. They can shop out their project to countless other photographers and videographers and just go price shopping. I've gotten retainer clients and a ton of work because I can relate to people, I'm outgoing and having fun on set, but I can table that and focus on the work when I need to. I'm not even saying I'm the best, I'm far from it. It's just being relatable. I try to over-deliver as much as possible and just generally be cool to people. Bonus tip that goes hand in hand with being a pleasure to work with is 99.9% of my work comes from word of mouth, referrals, and connections I make with people. And it blows my mind when I see sponsored posts on Instagram. You see this a lot, actually, in the sports world, but even in other photography and videography, realms, with some asinine marketing pitch. Like, dude, you don't need to pay money to Zuck to have 5,000 people see this ad with, if I'm being honest, your mediocre photos that look like every other photographer's. And my photos aren't exceptional either. I'm not saying they are. But making connections, meaningful ones, is usually done in person. People refer you when they know you or know you're personable and can do a great job. No one wants to be constantly advertised to anyways. So cut the sell, spamming ads, buying followers bullshit because, again, as I said before, social media is a fickle thing. All right, that's all I got. That's everything I would tell my 29-year-old self who, at the thought of making a living with a camera, would have thought it was impossible. I would have been like a dog shitting razor blades in a windstorm. But don't spend money impulsively, stay organized, diversify, learn when to say no to people if you have the freedom to do so, be ruthless with your own work, and for sure have fun with it. Don't be a douchebag or a cocky cock, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to make some art here.